Matt Rhule has just been announced as Nebraska's next head football coach. We saw the stuff coming out this morning. Uh, we saw it a little. It's been around for like 2 weeks that first Trev Alberts had offered Matt Rhule the job. Former Baylor, former Temple coach, former Carolina Panthers failed NFL football coach. Um, as we start digesting this news, I'll look at the athletic department release here in a few minutes. I thought there was some way to put a title in this, but I guess not. Or I haven't done this a while. I haven't done this since that other guy got fired. Okay, so what we're looking at is Matt Rhule as our new head coach. It's kind of surprising to me that it came out this fast this morning, but I guess they've been working on it for a while. I think 2 weeks ago, they started working on it. Rhule apparently. Here's the thing. This is negotiations. How negotiations work. You go to a guy and you say, "Here's the offer," and he says, "You know what? That's not good enough." Or, "Hey, I got to go talk to my people." Or, "Hey, the lawyer's got to look at this," and stuff like that. And that's kind of how negotiations work. So what there was, oh, Matt Rhule said no. I don't know. Did he say no, or did he say we got to go back and have lawyers look at this because that's normally what you do? I mean, I've had book contracts, and you kind of look at the book contract and you go, my God, some lawyer wrote this. I have to have my own lawyer to look at it to make sure the lawyer on the other side isn't screwing me out of stuff that only lawyers understand. Because that's how all this stuff with contracts works. Or sometimes you just sign your life away. I mean, think about this for a minute. J.K. Rowling, that wrote Harry Potter, she became a billionaire because when she signed her book contract, I realized I'm just wasting time until I can get to the point. When J.K. Rowling, she became a billionaire because when she signed a book contract with the publisher only took the print rights and left the ebook rights alone. So she made her billions of dollars because she still owned her ebook rights. And if you don't understand all the fine print of a contract like that, that's where the keys are. So what do we got? I'm just looking at this for the first time. Let's see. Trev Alberts will introduce Rhule as the 31st permanent coach, Nebraska head coach in history on Monday in Lincoln. Yeah, it's a little bit about stuff about Temple and how he turned around both programs at Temple and Baylor during his 7 seasons as a college head coach. 4 seasons at Temple, Rhule guided the Owls to 28 victories, including 26 over his final 3 seasons for 2014 to 2016. And whenever you get a press release, you're going to have, it's going to be gooey. That's how you write a press release. You say nice things about as much as possible as you can about anybody. What I'm looking for is terms, and I don't see any terms in here, so we're going to real quick go to term. Somebody said, we got Twitter stuff flying in all over the place, and we got comments coming in on this. So what do you guys think of Matt Rhule? I mean, I have the whole he looks like an Ewok thing, but I think I can get past that. Bogo says it's an 8-year contract, and I think you have to do that just because. I honestly think it's just because. Listen, I did the other video on why Nebraska football has failed, and I did that before this stuff came out, and I wanted to do it before it came out because it puts a stake in the ground for me, and then people can look at it and go, okay, he did this right before the release of this information that we have our next football coach. 8-year contract. What do I think of an 8-year contract? I think here's the thing with a contract like that, right? If you fire the guy at 3, you still owe him the rest of the 5, and that's just how it is nowadays. I mean, you're still looking at Texas A&M plays LSU today. We hope that Texas A&M can pull off an upset for this, and it'd be nice, but Texas A&M right now is failing miserably with Jimbo Fisher sitting there looking at a $95 million buyout, and the cost of oil is down precipitously. So He's probably going to be there for a while, and you have a lame duck coach. With Matt Rhule coming in, again, I don't have the details of the contract. I'm sure we'll find that out later. I asked people a little while ago on Twitter if they had a problem with this, what is it? And I'm going to ask you guys the same question. If you have a problem with this, what is it? And keep in mind, I realize there are a lot of you that wanted Urban Meyer. I don't think Urban Meyer was ever going to be an option, or you wanted Deion Sanders. And I don't think Deion Sanders was ever going to be an option. If you put aside the idea that you wanted somebody else, what are your problems with Matt Rhule? Because that's what I want to know. Troy Richardson says, and I'll try to do these. I was kind of, my brain, Troy Richardson says Bruce Feldman on Fox says it's an 8-year contract. Bruce Feldman is probably, I would consider him probably the one or two most connected people in football. Years ago, I interviewed Bruce when he wrote his book Meat Market, and he is a very down-to-earth guy. He doesn't go off on limbs. So I think Bruce Feldman, Brett McMurphy, I know a lot of people don't like him. Another well-connected guy that you can look at and say if that guy's saying this, it's pretty much true. Bogo says, I think he'll be an 8 to 10 win a year coach, which is better than a 1 to 4. I should put this up. A 1 to 4 win coach. This is very true. It's a very common sense statement from this Bogo guy. And I kind of sorry, I'm bouncing back and forth. My apologies. Okay. But I think that Matt Rhule, what problems do I have with him? That's the Ewok thing. Other than that, I think I looked at a lot of coaches when I did the coach videos. And I think what it did was give me a chance to kind of look at the resumes of people. Years ago in my job, I actually used to go through a lot of resumes for people. And you got kind of used to reading through people's resumes. And looking at, I think for me, I always look for military service. That's in a regular job, not a coaching sub, because they knew how to take orders and knew how to follow things through and knew what a project was at least. But I think what I looked at for the resumes that you're looking at for coaching hires, one of the things I looked at is where were they? How much experience did they have? Where did they get that experience? Which positions did they coach? And one of the things that I noted about Matt Rhule's resume as a coach, and we'll just look it up real quick here, is that guy's rise from being just you start at being a grad assistant is what you do in coaching. And you don't get paid. And then normally somebody will, if they go, hey, they said this guy is a good grad assistant, we should hire him as a position coach. And then you get hired as a position coach. If you played football, typically, you go into that area. For example, if you played offensive line, you're going to become a offensive line coach to start your position stuff. But I think that it's neat to see guys have a lot of different coaching experience in a lot of different areas. That way they get a well-rounded education. And I'm bouncing all over the place. My apologies. I'm going to invite one of my other people. And Brian Johannes is going to join us. And because he has a different perspective on things than I do. I have so many windows open. All right. Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule grew up in State College, Pennsylvania. State College is the home of Happy Valley. It's Penn State. He grew up basically at Penn State. And that's where he started his coaching careers. 1998 volunteer assistant at Penn State. Went from there to Albright, which is a small college. Linebackers coach. Buffalo defensive line coach. UCLA defensive line coach. Western Carolina special teams and linebackers coach. Western Carolina associate head coach, special teams linebacker coach. Temple defensive line coach in 2006, 2007. He's the quarterback coach and recruiting coordinator. So honestly, this guy, that's the one thing I liked when I looked at Matt Rhule's resume, is that he has been in a lot of places. He's been, not, and I don't mean physical places, but when you look at it, I mean, he's a linebacker coach, defensive line coach, he's special teams coach. He's been a quarterback coach, a defensive line coach. He was an assistant offensive line coach for the New York Giants in 2012. Offensive coordinator before he became the head coach. He was the offensive coordinator, tight ends coach at Temple for a year. And for 3 years, he was the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Temple. And those are all things before he ever became a head coach. And I like that because it's a well-rounded resume. By the way, Pipeline Jerky. See that? Pipeline Jerky. Go get your Pipeline Jerky. When you buy this stuff, a little bit of the proceeds from this go to support our offensive line as a Neil Collective thing. So that's my plug for them. Pipeline-jerky.com. There you go. Okay. Somebody says Rhule is going to be on College Game Day. Chris Crawford, I think I noticed that you did not like this hire and you were not impressed. Chris Crawford, Rhule got an 8-year contract, unfortunately. I think that seems to be the going thing, that they want to get paid. And if you're going to get a coach with a name and a resume, you're going to have to pay him. Probably a lot. And we don't know what the terms of that are. Okay, let's go through some of the comments since I'm bouncing around so much. Oh, let's go with Bearded Man Baby. We'll bring Brian in. Brian.
Can you hear me good?
I kind of can. Speak.
I'm pretty.
For some reason, it's not coming through my headphones. All right, let me read this Bearded Man Baby thing. Rhule has an okay record, not anything to be excited about. O'Brien was a hated pick, but the record is better. So not sure what the hell we're looking for. Mediocrity again, apparently. I don't mean to pick on you, Bearded Man Baby, but here's the thing with this. We all thought Scott Frost was going to be a surefire home run hire. And we now have a new head coach coming in. I do think that his record I think it's significant. I think it's fairly decent. I mean, he took over a Baylor program that was in scandal and after the Art Briles, incidents. And I think that just, all I am saying is I should sing that. Give Rhule a chance. That's terrible. Brian, are we doing any better?
Few of my settings.
I still don't have sound.
Sound.
Oh my God. This is why we try to prepare these things and not just go live immediately. All right. We'll see if we can get Brian back here. Chris Crawford again says Frost gets blamed for life regardless. That is kind of a shame about his regime, and that he will be forever known as the worst Nebraska coach in school history, because we're all going to get better coaches after this, right? Okay, back to Matt Rhule's record. I think there's some significant things in here that are worth mentioning. I mean, the whole going to Temple thing. Temple is not anything that we would call a football power. The two things stand out there. He beat Penn State 27-10 for the first time Temple beat Penn State since 1941. I think that's kind of cool, mostly because it irritates a friend of mine from Penn State, and I can bring it up. And secondly, I think what was it? He won they're in the AAC Temple, and he won a conference championship for the first time for them since 1967. That doesn't seem like long ago because I'm old, but that's a long time ago. That was like I think the last time the Minnesota Gophers won the Big Ten, and that's many years now. Damn, I am old. Why did I bring that up? Anyway, let's see. Let's keep going through some comments. Okay, that was at Temple. I think he took that program and he did well for him. And then at Baylor, he went 1-11 in their first year, and that's I think largely because if I remember Baylor, I did not look this part up, but I think at Baylor, what I remember is this: the Art Briles scandal came out. They went through all sorts of shit, and they lost most of their football team. And then this guy we hired, Matt Rhule, brought it back from the brink of disaster. And I was going somewhere with that. There's too much stuff going on at once. Okay, are we doing any better?
How do I sound now? I switched setup and everything.
Speak.
I am speaking. Can you hear me now?
It's kind of weird that it's not going through my headphones. Let's see the commenters. Are you guys all hearing Draft Brian Johannes? Okay. Let me check my sound. I realize this is
now I'm kind of messing with the settings.
Audio output. Audio. Yeah, they're everybody says yes. So, give us your reaction to the Matt Rhule thing and why you think he's a good coach for Nebraska, or maybe why you think he looks like an Ewok and you hate him.
I absolutely love this hiring. He was one guy that as soon as Scott Frost was fired, even before we knew he was going to get fired, he was someone that I thought was a home run hire. You look at what he did at Baylor. You look at what he did at Temple. Here's a guy that's a proven program builder, and that's what Nebraska needs. Nebraska's a developmental program. That's not a negative. Wisconsin's a developmental program too. Everybody outside of the elite teams is one. And we haven't had one of those guys. And it's just, it's what they need. And Rhule is a guy that he's going to go out and he's going to find guys that have the size, the speed, and what they need. And they're going to look to develop and teach them up. So I think it's a perfect hire. I don't know. Yeah, you would love to get Urban Meyer, but out of all the realistic guys, I think Matt Rhule is the best guy for the job. And I think Trev Alberts realized that, and that's why he went so hard to get him.
Okay, I didn't tell you this ahead of time, but I'm going to attack you on Matt Rhule. Are you ready?
Sure.
He thought Baker Mayfield was a good quarterback.
Hey, Baker Mayfield in college was a good quarterback.
I mean, at the Carolina Panthers, he wanted Baker Mayfield. Am I wrong about that?
Probably, but you look at his tenure with the Panthers, and I cover and follow the NFL too. So he, outside of the quarterback position, the Panthers kind of did a good job. I mean, they had talent. It's just the NFL's quarterback league, and they didn't have one. And yeah, they went and got Baker Mayfield, but what other options did they have? They started with Teddy Bridgewater. That was probably the best success that Rhule had. And then they thought, oh, hey, Sam Darnold's available. When they made that trade, a lot of people thought it was a good trade and said, get Darnold out of New York and he'll thrive. And he had injuries and never lived up to it. And then he knew probably going into this last year, they had to get somebody. And, Baker Mayfield wasn't terrible in Cleveland. It's just, I guess, didn't work out.
Well, it is Cleveland. Okay, one of the things that yesterday on Twitter, I think I saw some people mention when I mentioned Matt Rhule was he never beat a ranked program, or he never beat a ranked opponent, and then they'd qualify at Baylor. And I thought, okay, he was at Baylor like 3 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you go back and look at his record at Baylor, and I have this saved on my other laptop, which is out in the other room, but if people say this to you, he never beat a ranked team. I want you to think of this. First of all, his first year in 2017, he was 111 at Baylor. He was trying to rebuild after the Art Briles scandal. Can't say that enough. And they faced 4 ranked teams when he was trying to rebuild the program. So if you're going to hold that against him, I guess, yay you. Let's see. Baylor, let's see. The next year, 2018, he went 7-6. He went to a bowl game. What's that like? And he won the bowl game, which is even more shocking. But in his 2018 season, if I remember from my laptop, he faced 4 ranked opponents and he didn't beat them. 2019, 3 ranked opponents, but 2 of those ranked opponents were Oklahoma at like number 5 and number 6. And he got Baylor up into the top 10, and then I think but he lost to Baylor or lost Oklahoma in the regular season. He lost Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship. And then he lost the Sugar Bowl, I think, to Georgia. So I guess if you're going to hold that he didn't beat a ranked team, that he lost to 3 top 10 teams, I don't. If that's the thing, you're going to go, oh, he didn't beat a ranked team. I'd be okay if we were not beating ranked teams that were in the top 10, because those are tough games, especially in the first 3 years of your program. I'm guessing. What do you think of that, Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, and I understand why some people would have reservations against that. But those wins were going to come. He was building Baylor back up. And yes, Baylor was really good under Art Briles, but when Art Briles was let go, they had a mass exodus of players. And so he had to build that team back up. And those wins were coming. I mean, you look at what Dave Aranda's done the last 2 years, those were Matt Rhule's players. Matt Rhule put, Baylor in this past NFL draft put 5 guys in the draft, a lot of them in that second round. Jalen Petrie, there was JT Woods, there was a cornerback, there was a receiver that went to the Patriots in the second round. Those guys were all like 4.3 combine speeds. And so he was getting those guys in, and it was only a matter of time before he started getting those top 25 wins. It's just he left too early. He said he wanted to try the NFL, and the NFL came, and Carolina gave him every single thing that he wanted. So, yeah, he didn't beat any top 25 teams. Yeah, he only stayed there for 3 years, but he had an offer that was too good to pass up and something he wanted to try. So, I mean, I don't blame him.
All right, we're going to take a couple comments. M. Gaboski says, thanks, Huskers, for saving America from Iowa in the Big Ten Championship. You are welcome. I'm certain that Purdue fans are pretty happy about the fact that we saved everybody from having to watch Iowa get demolished in the Big Ten Championship. And I hope Purdue gets into the Big Ten Championship, just because, I don't know. When I was a kid, I was a NASA guy, and they put all those guys on the moon. That's good enough. Let's see. We're going to go with another comment. Darren Kislin, the fans have a terrible track record. I'm not going to question the Rhule hire, maybe the contract term. I hope the coach keeps MJ in some role. Brian, comment on that. I know you have to go. Go ahead and comment on this one, and then I'll let you go.
I think it's very likely that Mickey Joseph stays. You look at what Matt Rhule did when he was at Baylor. He hired, and the name's escaping, Joey McGuire. Joey McGuire was a heralded Texas high school coach, and Matt Rhule came to Texas, came to Baylor with no Texas connections. And so what he did is he went out and he got Joey McGuire to be, Joey McGuire turned down a Texas position. I don't know if it was Tom Herman or Charlie Strong offered Joey McGuire a spot on their staff. He turned them down, but then went to Matt Rhule, ended up being a really good recruiter for him. Now he's Texas Tech's head coach. And so I think that past track record of Matt Rhule looking for someone that can help him navigate this new job that he doesn't have a lot of maybe connections to would lend him to keeping Mickey Joseph. Mickey Joseph has said he wants to stay in Nebraska if he can. And so getting an ace recruiter, getting a guy that knows the program, I could definitely see it happening. And the only negative I can see is maybe there's players that really wanted Mickey as the head coach. So you kind of have that divided locker room. But I don't think Mickey, if he's honest that he wants to stay here and build this program back up, I think he'd kind of squash that.
All right, we'll go on. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, no problem.
Take care of yourself. And Ed, before you go, plug your channel.
Yeah, definitely draft_Brian. I have my reaction to the Matt Rhule hire. Lots of Husker stuff, other coaching stuff. It looks like Auburn's going to be hiring Hugh Freeze. I put a video out on that several weeks ago and picked Hugh Freeze as the likely coach, so I got that one right. Lots of NFL draft stuff. So if you're an NFL fan and you're kind of looking to see who your team could be drafting, I have plenty of videos out there on different prospects. But draft_Brian, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all your social media.
All right. Take care of yourself, Brian.
Thanks
for joining me. Okay, let's go with. We're gonna go with. I need a new mouse. That's what I need. Daniel K. This appears to be Polish or Czech name, and I would butcher it. Let's go ahead and try it, just because you can make fun of me. Daniel Krashik. This seems like too much of a we'll have to see kind of hire. How did Tennessee fans feel about getting Josh Heupel? Just curious. I think if you look at Tennessee fans, I mean, right now they were in the top 10, and I think there's a new world coming at college football where it's going to be a lot more like the NFL. I think that when you look at, right now we've had for a while in college football, the BCS went away and we went to the college football playoff. It's featured 4 teams. And there's been this phenomenon that's happened in my lifetime where, you used to have players just go around to teams and they were happy to play for these teams. But now you see a lot more athletes where they're into this stacking stuff, where they're all like, I want to win a Super Bowl, or I want to win an NBA championship. So all the best players go to a team. So you've seen, 5 stars of 5 stars go to Alabama repeatedly. And I think that is really a big thing for, that stacking concept, where a lot of those guys are like, okay, I want to go play for the best because I'm the best and I'm going to compete. Guys who are really good or competitive by nature, and they go stack themselves on the 4 teams that they think are going to probably make it into the college football playoff. Well, now we're seeing that playoff is going to expand. It's going to expand to 12. I don't know if I like it. I think it's a lot of money grab type stuff, but I think what it also does is it makes this much more like an NFL league, where you're going to have, we're going to sit there and go, what do you mean an 8-8 team is going to make it into the playoff? That kind of stuff is going to become a lot more prevalent in college football. So I think it's going to be important that you set yourself into basically build the platform to be one of those teams that can make it into that far in the playoff. I think the definition for success is expanding because of the playoff. Is it going to expand? Again, I don't know if I like this because it's all about money. And, for years we were told this was all about student athletes and the good of the game. Now it's a giant money grab, which I think will hurt it quite a bit over the long term. But it's a new world and we have to live in it. Nebraska has nil. And from every indication, Nebraska has nil collectives that are going to set up a future where Nebraska can be competitive with the top teams in the nation. So in a way, it's kind of like saying, remember all those years we heard about how Nebraska was like, well, they can't recruit. They don't have a population. Then look at that 500-mile radius. You got to keep those kids. Blah, blah, blah. You lost your recruiting base in Texas, which has never been true. All of that stuff can be mitigated because we have nil, and just bluntly, we can buy players. And we'll be able to buy more players than the rest of our Big Ten West counterparts. Now, having said that, when you look at the Big Ten, the conference we're playing, one of the 2 best conferences in the nation, along with the SEC, what you get is a pod situation, or a conference that looks a lot more like kind of breaking up NFL teams, because you're going to have Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, probably at the top, USC, UCLA coming in, and those teams are going to have all those players in California, and your goal is to be in there. It's in that top section. And I think with Nebraska, with Matt Rhule, I think that looks good. I think it's, are there negative things about Matt Rhule? Yes, he looks like an Ewok. Really can't think of other things. I'm sure that when he starts hiring his coaches and his coordinators, we'll have plenty more things to bitch about, which is going to be fun. But for right now, I think it is probably one of the best available. I would have liked to seen Dave Aranda come, but Dave Aranda isn't coming. Lance Leopold, Chris Kleinman, I would have been okay with. Matt Rhule, I think we should get on board. And one thing I decided I wanted to say to people is this. I realize there's probably going to be a lot of people that are not happy with this. I did that video about how people are going to be unhappy with the hire no matter who it is. And I hope that you put that stuff aside and you just move on and say, okay, this is our coach. Yes, and yes, somebody mentioned it earlier. This looks like a guy to wait and see what he does. Well, that would be true of anybody we hired. I don't think there was any home run hire in there that I think of. It certainly isn't Urban Meyer because I think that guy was just set to explode. Okay, let's go through some of these. Lloyd Christmas says, any guess on who Rhule will hire as coordinators? There's been something about some Texas A&M guy that wants to get the hell out of that disaster. And I guess we're going to find out over the next few days. Michael Lawson, 8-year contract. Carolina Panthers owe him $40 million. 8 times 5 equals 40. Is it possible for NU to pay him $3 million a year, and Carolina pays him $5 million a year? It is kind of possible. You have to get an NFL owner. From my understanding anyway, of how contracts work. You have to get the NFL owner to kind of sign off on that or agree to it. They have to meet a certain level of compensation. You can't just pay a guy $50K and have him come, because you're screwing over the NFL owner, and they would have lawyers, and then they're NFL lawyers, and they're all in hell. That's how NFL lawyers work. But so you have to pay him a certain amount. I'm sure that they have to pay him like $5-7 million a year to meet the stipulations of the NFL contract. They're essentially, I don't want to say buying out because that's probably not the right term, but they have to, mitigate some level of mitigation. I should have invited Nate McHugh in here and he could talk lawyer things. All right. Chris Crawford again. The athletic directors have a terrible track record more than the fans. Can we talk about this for a minute? We've had some, I did that Why is Nebraska Failed video, and I talked about athletic directors, particularly Steve Peterson and Sean Eichhorst, which were not very good athletic directors. You could throw Bill Moose in there because he threw money around like it wasn't his, and I guess it wasn't, but okay, I'm going to ask you guys this question. What are your expectations for this coach? What are your expectations for Matt Rhule? Let's say, in his first year, I would like to see some comments. In his first year, what do you have for expectations for Matt Rhule? Knowing where we're at as a program, which we are the worst Power 5 program in football right now, since we haven't made a bowl game for so many years. It's just something you admit to yourself. Yes, we were screwed up. Now we can fix ourselves and go on. Okay. What are your expectations for Matt Rhule in year 3? So year 1, year 3, what do you want to have happen? My dog's getting a little nutty here, so okay. So let's take through. Bowl game in 2 seasons. Terrible, just terrible. That's a name. It says bowl game in 2 seasons. No, that's probably realistic. Chris Crawford says 6-6. Clancy says a year 3, 10 wins. LOL. Bearded Man Baby. First season 4 wins. My God, it went by too fast. That's the thing about this stuff. Boom, ba-doom, ba-doom. First season, 4 wins. Second year, 6. Year 3, 6 wins. Fourth year, 7 wins. Fifth year, 5 wins. He doesn't expect much from Matt Rhule. So he does not. He's a wait-and-see guy. Let's see. I'll try to put some of these up. Aaron Ken says year 1, 500-plus record. Year 3, top 15 consistently. I think that's a good expectation, honestly. Let's see. Chance Johnson, I just went by here. Expectations, 5 and 7 at least. Get to a bowl game and start making our name respected to some degree. Year 3, competing for conference title. I think that's a reasonable expectation too. And I think expectations are important. The reason why they're important is they don't lead us to disappointment. We know that we're going to be fed massive tons of Kool-Aid. Massive tons of Kool-Aid here in the next few days. And then we're going to spend the offseason being just fed massive tons of Kool-Aid. Let's try a few more of these. 402 Garage says bowl game first and second year Big Ten conference game in third season. Okay. That keep in mind, by his third season, we will be competing with more better teams. UC, USC, and UCLA. This is going to get a lot tougher to ever reach consistently the winning level that. Okay, let's go back to the 90s. We're not probably ever going to get to that level again because it's going to probably be impossible. It's even going to probably be impossible for teams like Ohio State because this conference is going to become very difficult for people to win. And it is going to be like, I wanted to say winning the NFC North, but that's not really hard, is it? I don't really pay attention to the other NFC divisions. Okay. James Boardman, here we go. 14-0. Oops, sorry, spilled Kool-Aid on my laptop. 6-6. Year 1, 6-6 would probably be a nice record, just because we have to rebuild the offensive and defensive lines. Justin Pavlik says Palmer is going to the NFL. He just announced it. I guess I haven't looked at that or I haven't seen it. Hold on a second. I see that. Okay. The guy's on Slack. We use Slack for internal communication. Trey Palmer has announced that he is NFL bound, and we just did an article. We're fast for a bunch of people that don't do this for a living. I don't know. I would have liked to seen Trey Palmer return because he's a guy who can score a lot. I think we saw that. I mean, he kept us in games. Beard Man Baby says Trey Palmer isn't good enough for the NFL yet. You know what? He's had a few drops that he shouldn't have had as drops. But I guess he's going to go out there and get paid. It'd be nice. You can do that thing where you look and get an evaluation and come back. But I guess if you're announcing, then... Okay, David Mott comes with this. He's coming in hard. Breaking news, Nebraska hires Mike Miley. Okay, I get the joke. I'm slow. Reich Miley. Okay. Go ahead, David. Why do you not like this hire? Give us more than that. It was a good joke and I blew it. Lanny Muir says 8 wins next year. Look at the schedule. Yeah, Lanny, I'd probably say look at our offensive line. I want us to win that much. Can we win that much? I don't know. That's the wait and see thing. But my expectations are going to be low until I drink all the Kool-Aid in this offseason and think we're going to win a national title. Because that's what we do. Isn't it? Let's see. Snosberry. I'm just picking these out as they're going by. I think if they can improve the O-line slightly, there should be no reason they can't make a bowl game next season. This is true. And yeah, I mean, we're Nebraskans. We'd all love to see a good offensive line. Oh, I did that one. Terrible, just terrible says win the West. Boss Hog GA. There's kind of a name. First year, just want him to get us to a bowl game. It would be nice to get that monkey off our back. Lloyd Christmas has got this thing going. Walk like an Ewok, talk like an Ewok, must be an Ewok. Could be. Could be. We've hired an Ewok as a coach, which I don't know. Maybe, a lot of people like Ewoks, so maybe he'll recruit well just on that. Joel Tilson says Rhule gone. Yeah, Rhule can't stay. I mean, you look at the offensive line. Here's something interesting about this. You look at our offensive line, and all year, our offensive line has had horrible issues with stunts and twists. You run a stunt against us, and we freak out. Nobody blocks anybody, and the quarterback gets killed. And what was neat about Iowa is you saw that same thing happen to them yesterday, where the right tackle completely missed picking up the guy to his outside shoulder. The guy came in, I can't remember which one of our guys was, came in and just blew up the quarterback. And it was neat to see that somebody else's offensive line sucks sometimes as badly as ours does. So, yeah, I don't see how they're going to retain Rhule. And I wouldn't worry about, we could get the quarterback, Dylan. I just don't worry about that stuff. We will have players come in. Are you guys going to be watching any games today? I mean, Ohio State, Michigan starts in a little over an hour. You guys going to be watching that? Because, I mean, that was a game I watched since I was a kid. The 10-year war, Ohio State, Michigan, Bo versus Woody. It was on, we got 3 TTV channels, and it was on every year. And the Michigan helmets. I applied to Michigan coming out of high school. I don't remember if I got accepted there or Notre Dame. But it's a game that I always watch because it's usually, it's still, I think, now that we don't have the history of rivals that we used to have, I think Ohio State, Michigan is probably the rivalry for me. And what's fun is we get Twitter and we can go out and poke people from Michigan and poke people from Ohio State, because I know a lot of fans of both of those, and I just poke them and they get angry and respond. And that's how I get attention. It's kind of a sad life, isn't it? Okay. I didn't read this one all the way. David Mott, quit to drop the money to get rid of a coach, but won't put up money for an elite coach is frustrating. I just ask you, David, and put you on the spot. What about Matt Rhule do you not think is elite? What is bothering you about this hire? And I honestly, this time around, if you look at the coaches out there, I mean, pick any coach. I don't think any of them would be considered elite. You could look at Urban Meyer, but again, I think Urban Meyer's done with coaching, and I don't think he was ever going to coach anywhere else again. Let's go with this code. Jeff Reganborn, why don't I feel excited about this hire? Is it just me? I made the comment to my wife yesterday after we beat Iowa that I don't know how to feel, because we have not won very much at all. We certainly haven't beat rivals, and we've certainly had a hard time of this lately, and I really didn't know how to feel. I wanted to feel happy about it, but I kept going, and it just, okay, what is that? It's kind of like when you look at the team and you go, they don't know how to win. Well, okay, maybe that is something. Why don't I feel excited about this hire? Well, one of the reasons I decided to do this live was so that I could get energy off you guys, because I'm kind of a guy that's right now, I'm a let's wait and see guy, but I know at the same time, I think this is a really good hire. I just don't feel it as much as I'd like to be. I mean, I could try to get fake excited, but I think it's because we're dead inside. We've been watching a really, quite frankly, bad football team try to play their hearts out, missing so many components, with so much bad coaching that has settled into them over the years, that we've become dead inside to a lot of we've become dead inside to feeling anything positive about our team. And that's honestly why I hope that people who didn't get the guy they wanted and didn't get the hire they wanted, they put that aside and get on the bandwagon. Join the rest of us and come on in for the big win. What's that line from Full Metal Jacket? The guy, join the team. It's really kind of terrifying. Mike Schuster asks, I wonder when this was officially known. I wonder if MJ knew this yesterday. Most likely. I mean, the rumors are out there. I realize that people, don't. You have a job to do. You focus on it. I think I'm trying to read your mind, Mike. Did he know yesterday and he still went out and coached? Yeah, because that's what a professional does. And I think Mickey Joseph, if nothing else, has shown for this season that he is, well, quite frankly, a professional. He's shown that he's more professional than some other guys, like that guy that we got rid of. And his defensive coordinator that we got rid of. I think that Mickey Joseph has shown himself to be a stand-up guy, a professional at what he does, a person who cares about his players and cares about his coaching staff and cares about being successful. And like I've said in my other videos, Mickey Joseph is going to be successful no matter where he goes. And people define success in life like a lot of different things. I pointed out, if you go back and you look at Mickey Joseph's his resume, you'll see that he took time out of his life to help people after Katrina, because he's from New Orleans and he knows those people. And again, I saw the Ninth Ward, and dear God, all of that place was so badly destroyed. You just broke your heart seeing that stuff for those people. And he took time out of his life to help those people. And that is a huge thing. So no matter where Mickey Joseph, and no matter what Mickey Joseph does, he's going to be successful. And I truly believe that. And he's done a great job for Nebraska, having taken over in an impossible situation and made the most of it. All right. Let's keep going. Thomas Hillbrand says, how much? I don't know. You know what? Let me ask my guys on Slack if we know anything about this contract. The contract terms. Oh, here's something. Steve Sipple tweeted. He must be watching College Game Day. I don't watch that much. Steve Sipple's tweeted, Kirk Herbstreit points out Nebraska's struggles over the last 20 years. Asks Rhule what needs to happen to get the program back. Rhule mentions he has already talked to Osborne. I'm not sure if that's good or bad. Rhule mentions the importance of everyone moving in the same direction at the school. I made this point in my Why Has Nebraska Failed video. The whole Tom Osborne thing, I think, is, there's a certain level of people that meets a need for. Normally older guys like me. Why did I touch my hair? I don't know. But normally older guys are like, well, what's Tom got to say about this? I personally kind of think, I don't really care anymore what Tom Osborne thinks about this, because I hope his influence has waned, quite frankly. And the guys who are actually, you have Ted Carter, you have Ronnie Green, you have Trev Alberts. Those people need to all have the same vision. They need to be moving in the same direction. And that's really what those people have to align. You have to have champions above you when you're at a certain position in an organization. And those people have to champion you. What we saw previously was those people hanging on to a guy for too long and hoping that he would get his shit together, and he never did. And really what we need out of this is everybody moving in the same direction, and everybody with the same vision. All we know about the contract terms right now is 8 years. Nate P says he pretty much has to say he talked to Tom and respects Frost. He is being a professional. That's a good point. Because, that just... You remember when that other guy was hired and he spent all this time blaming the guy before him? Okay. I really think that that's bad form no matter what job you take. I know that it works sometimes in corporate America where you go, well, those problems were caused by that other guy, and you get away with it. But I think that if you're in a public forum, our politicians do it all the time, and I don't want to get into that, but it's just bad form. It's bad. It's a bad look. And quite frankly, I think you're being kind of a wiener doing that kind of stuff. Oop, I put that up again. Mike Schuster, do you think would be interested in staying, or do you think MJ has already gone? He said he wants to stay at Nebraska. I think the thing I mentioned him taking care of people during Katrina or post Katrina. He went out of his way and he spent part of his life taking care of a bunch of kids. All right. I think in this case that, when you look at Mickey Joseph's career trajectory, that this year has kind of screwed him up because he's gone from, being a position coach as a wide receivers position coach. He had the associate head coach in title name, but he's jumped all the way to being a head coach without being a coordinator. I really think it's important that you be a coordinator before you just go jump to the top, unless you're going to take a job at a smaller school. And my hope is that I think just Mickey Joseph is a guy that we want to stick around because the recruiting prowess, but not only that, because he is a really good guy and people love him. And there is a certain level of we need to like the people that are coaching our players. So he meets that need. I don't want, I think people will like you if you win. And you can get away with a lot, damn near murder, but there's that likability factor. Deion Pryor makes a good point. MJ needs to, whoops, I missed. Deion Pryor says MJ will probably stay at least 1 year to hold the team together. You'd hope so. Maybe they'll up his salary. I would like to see that. Somebody else had a good point in here. Jack Price. Jack Price says, what stops him from jumping back to the NFL again if he finds success? Nothing. Nothing at all. I think he went to the NFL and he found it wanting. No, he went to the NFL and he had to deal with NFL owners. And he had to deal with one other thing about the NFL that is extremely different than college football, and that is you can't just rebuild a team. You have a draft and you have specific picks in that draft and you have free agency and you have specific people you can get in that free agency. But by and large, you can't just replace a roster in 2 years. And if you look at what he did at Temple and what he did at Baylor, he rebuilt those teams within two years, basically. They were winning teams. You could do that a lot faster now because of the portal. You can do that a lot faster with recruiting. So I think that number one, and I don't mean to be rude to you, Jack, I think worrying about that stuff in the future, that's kind of a future thing. One of the things I've learned about being a heart attack survivor and brain injury survivor is we spend a lot of time worrying about stuff that's never going to happen. We really waste our energy and we fill ourselves with anxiety about things that may happen in the future. And we're sold a lot on that because that's how people, I'm going off on a tangent. I'll stop. Sal Savala says, do you think we will lose the recruits MJ recruited coming in due to high? I don't know what that, due to coach change. I'll just fill in the rest of that. I don't know if we care. I just hate to say that like that, but here's the thing about the roster. When you look at our roster, we have a big roster left over from Frost. We're going to probably see a lot of people transfer, and that's okay. Because if they don't fit, it's okay that they go somewhere else. If they don't like the coach, if they didn't enjoy their time at Nebraska, if they don't, like Jacques Yant tweeted something, I think, and then deleted it, that he was going, if Jacques Yant thinks he's going to get more playing time somewhere else, then it's okay with Jacques Yant to go. Bless him. We seem to have this thing where we have players, and when they reject us, we take it as a personal rejection. And we really should look at this and say, they need to do what's best for them because they are young people that are trying to make their way in this world. And so if we are going to lose players, we're probably going to lose players we don't want to. I hope Casey Thompson stays. I don't know if he will. I don't like that. I don't like that. Trey Palmer's gone, but he has to do what's best for him. Lloyd M. Christmas says, how is Rhule's recruiting? We're going to find out. But I think if you go back to what I said a bit ago about he rebuilt Temple and Baylor into winning teams in like 2 years. And not maybe the top of the games at 2 years. He still had a ways to go. I think that's indicative of the fact that he can bring in good players and evaluate them and develop them. So we're going to see what happens. That's a lot of this stuff. Okay. Whew. I'm coming up on an hour, which is probably for me. I see Connor at Corn Craze do these 2-hour and 20-minute streaming sessions. I'm like, oh my God. I would probably fall over because of that, because this is a lot of work. When you have a brain injury, having a lot of whole different stuff going on at once is neurofatigue exhausting. So we'll probably go for a few more minutes. And I really do thank all of you for joining me, this many people. What else do we want to know about this before we go? I think one thing that we probably could say is this. Compared to, the last guy we hired brought everybody with him from UCF. And I guess one of the things you're going to look at with Matt Rhule with regards to who he is going to hire and who he's going to bring with him is he doesn't have a coaching staff really to bring with him. So it will be very interesting to see what his connections are and who he reaches out and grabs. And that'll be fun. I mean, and you kind of have to look at it like fun because you really don't know what's going to happen. When you look at life ahead of you, well, I never expected to drop dead one day. So life's full of surprises you never considered. Hopefully none of those for you. All right. So who might be, Mike Corrigan says, who might be the quarterback coach? I don't know. This happened, I honestly, faster than I thought it was. They are going to officially announce Monday, which is what I said would happen. And, because Monday's a clean day and there's not all this other noise. Right now, I mean, you announced it and you made it official on Twitter so that Matt Rhule apparently could go on College Game Day and get that publicity for Nebraska, which I think is it's a good thing for the program. Sorry, somebody threw this off. Bradley Poppy says, Rhule will fuck this all up. I knew some Poppies from Grant. They were good people. Bradley, we need to join the program. We need to get in with the big team and come in for the win. And Grant and football, I played football against Grant when I was young. And the years we played against Grant, they just beat the living shit out of us every time we played them. I think we beat them when I was a sophomore, but I was a sophomore and really wasn't playing. Otherwise, Grant just ran over everybody. I mean, it was god-awful. I still have nightmares about that. C2, I think they won the C2 championship. I don't know how many years ago, years in a row. Okay, Pipeline Jerky. See this, Pipeline Jerky? Go to pipeline-jerky.com and buy some jerky. I still need to review their jerky. I still actually have it unopened. Because their guys are like, have you even done this yet? I'm like, I haven't even opened this yet. Well, we'll do a review on that in the not too distant future. Terrible, just terrible says, how will Rhule fuck things up worse than they already have been? Well, that's a damn good point. I'll tell you that right now. You guys are good at making good points. And then I steal all those ideas and talk to other people, and you make me seem much smarter than I really am. Bearded Man Baby says, I will say that this is the smoothest coaching hire that they've had in a while. You know what this is nice? Nice is about this. When they hired Mike Riley, we had to all go out and look up, who the hell is this guy? And then we all had to come up with stuff. Everybody's like, that guy came out, he was like some guy in a gym somewhere. You hired him and nobody knows who he is. And we had to find all this stuff. At least with Matt Rhule, he's a known quantity. And I think he's a known quantity for a lot of people. And that is another very good thing. All right. I think an hour of this is good. You need to all go watch the Michigan-Ohio State game, which is coming up at 11 a.m. Pick your side. Go out on your social media and make fun of the other side because why the hell not? Yourself asks, when's the press conference? It's on Monday. Sharpie says Palmer to the draft. There's still time for him to change his mind. Okay. This is the introductory Matt Rhule to Nebraska thing, which I guess I don't tend to believe in things until they happen. And the reason for that is my entire life I've been an IT consultant. I've worked with all sorts of companies, all sizes, all industries. Seriously, been all over the place. And one of my favorite phrases to tell people is just because you bill someone doesn't mean you're going to get paid. So I really rely on let's get it official. Let's make sure that we're getting paid here. And it looks like Nebraska, well, we'll be paying Matt Rhule, but he is going to be our coach. And that's kind of exciting. We can look forward to the future. And God help us, we will have so many Rhule jokes. It's time to rule the Big Ten. And I'm going to sign off with that. Take care of yourselves. Thank you for supporting me. I'll go buy a t-shirt. I should have, whatever. Merry Christmas.